Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm talking about how self-esteem is different from self-confidence and how you can have both. Self-esteem is actually different from self-confidence, so let's not get the two conflated. By the end of the video, you'll be able to have more self-esteem and self-confidence and be aware of the synergistic effects of these working together in healthy and empowering ways. Now, I am not a licensed psychologist, but I have been studying this topic for years, and I do have some of my own insights and perspective to share around these two concepts, both of which are very, very important to self-love and how we present, navigate in our inner experience, being alive and navigating through the world. I think it's super important for you to clearly know what both are, and I'm so glad that you clicked on this video because the start of anything is a definition. To actually improve something, we must define something and then measure progress of it. Otherwise, literally, we're all just throwing phrases and desires and concepts out into the ether. We conflate self-esteem and self-confidence a lot because there is overlap. There's a lot of overlap, especially in the worlds of like self-love, but they are different. And right now, watching this video, you could have neither of these things. You could be really strong in one and lack the other, or you could and ideally will have both. People use these interchangeably sometimes, and I get it, but I think it's important to actually be super precise, and I'll explain why. Then I'm going to share how I define or how I think of self-esteem and self-confidence. And then lastly, I'm going to give you a practical layout of exactly what you can do to improve each of these. Here's what you need to do to repair and improve your self-esteem. Here's what you need to do to repair or improve your self-confidence. I'll share some ways that have literally helped me improve each so that you can walk away from this video having a little more of both. Before we start, again, a quick disclaimer that I'm not a psychologist, and to be honest, I don't do a lot of research for my videos. I only talk about something if I feel like I have enough life experience to actually share something useful and interesting about it, but I do try to just share what's from my heart. I'm pretty sure if you research more into this topic, you'll find that my definitions and the ways that I think about these concepts are pretty aligned to standard definitions. But just a quick disclaimer there, take what you find is helpful and leave what you don't. So let's talk about how self-esteem and self-confidence are two different concepts and why it's important to realize that they are distinct. The thing is that someone can be self-confident but not actually have self-esteem, or you could have full self-esteem but not have self-confidence in certain things like your ability to speak in public or your artistic skills. It's important to know how they're different because that's how we can pinpoint where exactly we need more work or support in our own lives, and that's how we can actually improve that area of our lives by being able to accurately say what it is. Now, let me give you some examples from my own life so that hopefully it's a little more helpful and clear for you. For most of my younger life, I was really self-confident but lacked self-esteem. So how did this actually manifest in my life? It manifested in me looking good on the outside and being able to have certain skills or talents or strengths or the aptitude to do certain things like graduate from a good college, get a good job. But at the same time of all of those good things that came from my strong self-confidence, I also had poor mental health. I had unhealthy relationships to people and things because my self-esteem was zero or in the negative numbers. I couldn't actually find helpful solutions for a long time because the younger me thought, I am self-confident. There's no issue here. I do love myself because I'm self-confident. See the problem? By not really fully understanding what self-confidence and what self-esteem were clearly and how they're a little bit different, I couldn't actually solve some of these problems, or I was misattributing results to the wrong cause. Then growing up, I realized how important it is to be specific about definitions and concepts so that we can actually identify and troubleshoot the problems. It's kind of like going to the doctor and they misdiagnose you. They give you the correct medicine for the thing that they misdiagnosed you for, well, that medicine is not going to help you fix your problem because there was that error of definition. So now let's define what self-esteem and self-confidence are. Again, these are my definitions from my heart, from my experience in this work that I've been doing for the past few years. Just a disclaimer there, feel free to do more research on it on your own. So I define self-esteem as your fundamental respect and unconditional regard for yourself. Of course, I say unconditional in the most ideal sense, but really it's your regard for yourself. If you don't have strong self-esteem, that regard might have more of a negative slant or bias. The goal is to have an unconditional regard and value for yourself, and that's where you get to the pinnacle of really strong, healthy, grounded self-esteem, supportive self-esteem. Of course, as humans, we're all works in progress. We're not just born and go through the harshness of the world perfectly. No matter what you're starting out as, where is your fundamental respect and regard for yourself? Is your regard for yourself negative, or is it unconditionally accepting? All of these things impact your ultimate self-esteem. And I also think of self-esteem as having nothing to do with your circumstances, as in your possessions or your career or your how you look like on the outside or any of those things. Although, to be clear, I do think self-esteem can have to do with the circumstances in which you were raised and acclimated to the world. So those circumstances, like for example, in your younger self, those circumstances could definitely shape your self-esteem. But I'm saying, like, if you look at someone in a snapshot in time, you can't really judge someone's self-esteem by their circumstances, how much money they make, where they live, what their relationships are like. Self-esteem is your relationship to yourself and also your relationship to every other piece of consciousness that exists either within yourself or outside of yourself, because all of that does come back to yourself and the filter that you navigate the world with. We'll talk more about this later. Esteem really has to do with value, worth, and more fundamental and almost nebulous things that are often created from our beliefs and conditioning around love and respect. In this way, self-esteem is more internal. It is very much internal. How do you feel about yourself when no one else in the room is watching, when no one else is judging? How do you really feel about yourself? On the other hand, self-confidence is more about how equipped you are, how well you understand and have control over your own capabilities, and how confidently you can navigate and convey what makes you you. Self-confidence is more about how equipped you are as a person. How smoothly can you navigate the world and make decisions? How can you convey who you are and what makes you you? Self-confidence is more around skills, control over your life, and aptitude. And in this way, in every way, I see confidence as being a very relational thing, because confidence fundamentally has to do with people. For example, in a super hypothetical case, you were the only person on this planet, something like self-confidence wouldn't really even exist. And that's what I mean when I say confidence is always relational to other people. So in that way, self-esteem is more fundamental about your worth, and self-confidence is more about your aptitude and your skills and your abilities, and part of that is in relationship to others. Hopefully these definitions make sense to you and give you a little more insight on why I think it's so important to separate self-esteem from self-confidence so that you can actually constructively build or increase both in your life. So now, to end off this video, I'm going to just share a couple of the things that really helped me build or repair my self-esteem and really help me build or repair my self-confidence. Self-esteem, if you're starting from a low place, it's usually because of something in your past, the way you're raised or conditioning around limiting beliefs and all of that. So self-esteem, zero is not really zero. A lot of times when we realize we have this issue with self-esteem, we're actually in the negative numbers, like we're actually in a negative self-esteem state. We're not in a neutral zero state. So to get from a negative self-esteem state to a neutral self-esteem state, and then to start actually building positive self-esteem, we need to clear things that are harmful and things that are continuing to limit us and make us not respect ourselves and make us not value ourselves fundamentally. And also keep in mind that no matter what your circumstances technically are, no matter what relationships and all of that, if you believe that inherently you are valuable as a human being and inherently you are valuable of respect and love just by virtue of being alive in this world, just by your own desire to be so, that dedication is enough really to build your self-esteem. But of course, circumstantially, there are ways that you can go about improving it as well. And I have a video on how to love yourself as well as how to stop people pleasing. So those videos go into a little more detail and might be helpful. I'm happy to talk more about self-esteem too. I mean, it's a huge topic, obviously. Basically, if you take away anything from this video about how to repair and build self-esteem, it's that you need to go from a negative self-esteem to a zero neutral state of self-esteem and then build on self-esteem. And the way that you go from a negative state to a neutral state is by removing negative things that cause you to devalue yourself, that cause you to hate yourself or criticize yourself. Removing all of those things, whether it's by changing your mindset and changing your beliefs around it, or whether it's by making some tweaks in your actual environment to be more supportive in that process of building self-esteem. It could be cutting out bad habits, whether those are like real life bad habits that you engage in, or just bad habits of mental chatter and thoughts around yourself. Criticizing yourself can also be a bad habit, and it's something that we have control over, even though it's difficult, especially when you start. It's really difficult, but that's kind of how I think about going about repairing your self-esteem. And then once you get to that neutral state, it's pretty easy to go off of there and build really strong self-esteem. That's my quick TLDR in this video on how to repair your self-esteem. Confidence, on the other hand, how do we go about repairing and improving our self-confidence? I believe that no human can be self-confident in every single aspect. Self-confidence is way more nuanced and conditional. Whereas I do believe that every human can, regardless of their circumstance, have really strong self-esteem in every single circumstance. I believe that's achievable and easier than most of us think. The lighting changed. This lighting actually looks a little bit better, so I think I'm just gonna keep it this way. I'm also too lazy to go turn the light back on. But anyways, for self-confidence, I don't think we can ever be fully self-confident in every single situation because there's just too much variability in Earth and our experience of humans. So you might be super self-confident in certain things and not very self-confident in other things, and that's totally fine. We can't win at everything, and part of self-love and healthy self-esteem and self-acceptance is accepting that. So to repair your self-confidence, first of all, is there anything that's really hurting your self-confidence right now? It might have been like embarrassments or shames that you've had, whether by other people. For example, things like bullying or isolation can really hurt your self-confidence because it makes you, well, not confident. If you're nervous and stressed, you can't be confident. They're kind of opposite states. So if there's any like really traumatic things that happen that might affect your self-confidence, dealing with those, processing those, letting those go. I think self-confidence is more of like, what are the things that you want to put in work to be more self-confident in, and then just go and actually put in the work so that you can feel self-confident. Unless you want to just fake it till you make it, and that's fine too. I really believe more just being humble in the things that we aren't as confident about and being open to learning and like honoring the process of growing. And then for the things that we are self-confident in, just owning that and building off of that. So that's kind of where I see self-esteem and self-confidence being a little bit different. I promise you that by the end of the video, I want you to be able to walk away having a little more self-esteem and self-confidence. So what are the main takeaways for each? Remember, self-esteem is about asking yourself, what are the things that are keeping me from valuing and holding myself in high regard, and removing those things. That's how you build self-esteem. Self-confidence is, what are the things that I want to be confident and skilled at, identifying them, and then actually putting in the work to build the confidence and aptitude in those things. So hopefully that gives you some inspiration and insight on how you can improve both of these areas in your own life. I feel so much better about my life and my potential and just every other thing in my life now that I have a healthy mix of self-esteem and self-confidence, and I really hope that all of us can get there. For me, having the right guides, mentors, and coaches really helped. I do offer limited one-on-one coaching for people that just want a little more extra tailored support and accountability and visibility to help them actualize into their full potentials faster, because it's a lot easier to get to where you want to go with the right coach. So if you're interested in that, we can talk and see if it would be a good fit. Otherwise, if you have questions or just want to share your own learnings on this experience, or want to ask me for advice on this topic, feel free to DM me. Love talking to you guys, happy to chat about anything. So just go ahead and DM me and we'll talk from there. I'm so glad you watched it, because I really think this is some of the most important work that we could be doing for ourselves at any age. And it's one of those things where if we build our self-esteem and self-confidence, we see the payoffs in every other category of our lives. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found something helpful, and I'll see you next time.